come back and look at it.
Good morning. Thank you, Rashonda. Good morning to our listeners. Welcome back to the first Wednesday, June 1st, the first Wednesday of the month, Urban Chambers. We are here with you today with the Global Roundtable, and I'm very excited to be in conversation with our president of the Urban Chamber of Southern Nevada, Mr. Ken Evans. It's always a pleasure to be able to share space with you, ideas. Today, we are going to go over a few things. It's almost summertime, almost mid-year, right? So we're going to talk about our experience of Africa Day, the Liberation Celebration. We really took that opportunity to bridge our African-American Black small business owners, our elected officials, and the African diaspora here in the state of Nevada. It was actually regional. There were Africans coming from the West Coast to this celebration of liberation for the continent of Africa. We also wanted to go ahead and just kind of give you a preview of the remaining of 2022 and kind of what 2023 looks like. And as always, to break down why it's important to think about global, outside the box strategies, ideas, and capitalism when it comes to your small business. Ken, welcome.
Glad to be here. Thanks again, Tiffany. As always, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to act as a leader in this initiative for the Global Roundtable. Definitely appreciate the fact that you're willing to moderate these monthly Global Roundtables. And as always, I invite everyone out there. It's on Facebook Live, so hello out there to our Urban Chamber Facebook family. But as always, I invite people that are interested, or even if you're not sure if you're interested in global commerce, by all means, join us for these monthly discussions.
Ken, first up, can we talk about how it felt to add one more year to the belt of the Urban Chamber in relationship to the diaspora when we are talking about the celebration and the liberation of Africa, all of the businesses, there was consulates there, elected officials.
Yeah, it was another great event. Unfortunately, I was a little under the weather there that Saturday, but leading into it, I'd been talking to various members of the African diaspora of Las Vegas. And let me say first and foremost, we're glad to have them be part of the Urban Chamber family. Their president, Stella, is a real good friend and colleague. In addition to that, there's a few other individuals, and forgive me, as they say, charge it to my head, not to my heart, if I don't say everybody, but a couple other individuals, Jennifer, Augusta, there's several other individuals that are part of Africa Day that we really appreciate collaborating with them on an ongoing basis. So even though I wasn't there in physical presence, I was definitely there in spirit, but definitely our board chair, Shondell Newsom, was there. Our chair-elect, Jaren Gray, was there. I think a couple other board members, Julie Kenkai, Atarha Sabala, were there. Tiffany, you were there. So by all means, it felt good to have another Africa Day. And I think this is the first one, the first big one since post-COVID. I mean, COVID is still around, but for the most part, it's one of the first major festivals for Africa Day since we kind of been cooped up. And I could tell from the pictures, from the immediate response, the social media, that the energy and experience was great. So it was really good to see.
That's it. And you know, what's so great about going to these events, these festivals, these celebrations where you're bringing organizations together in one place. To me, I'm always so inspired to look around at the teams that helped organize it, right? Yep. So from the African diaspora Las Vegas to the Black Caucus to the Urban Chamber, the work that the Urban Chamber, your team, the team at the Urban Chamber of Nevada does, Rashonda, Delisa, the names go on and on. I'm just so grateful and, well, humbled by the grit and the timing and the pressure of organizing such a team, because it takes a lot of work around the clock, actually, mentally, to put these events together. So
Absolutely.
thank
And
you.
and
Thank you
and
to the teams.
yeah, absolutely. And in our case, we played a minimal support role. Plus, in addition to that, we were afforded the opportunity to sponsor. And I anticipate we will continue to sponsor Africa Day. Looking forward to Africa Day 2023. But I anticipate the Urban Chamber will continue to provide this type of support, not only financially, although that's important, but definitely with our presence and our support and our volunteers, et cetera, our business owners, for future Africa Day events. And definitely want to congratulate the team. That's one thing I really appreciate about the African Diaspora Las Vegas is there are multiple associations for the various countries within the Las Vegas community. And what they did is it was actually a good event itself, just the effort leading into the event. They were posting about, hey, we're having another volunteer meeting. They were open, they were receptive, they were very inviting. So absolutely, we as the Urban Chamber are glad that we're able to, again, do what we can to support the effort. And we're looking forward to Africa Day 2023.
Okay, next on the agenda, Ken, I want to take this time, if it is cool with you, to really revisit the mission and the vision of the Urban Chamber and the Global Roundtable. To our listeners, whether you tune in and you contribute or participate in all the different programs with the Urban Chamber, or you're new and you're figuring out and navigating on the website, one, I would like to just give a shout out to the Urban Chamber of Commerce of Southern Nevada on a national level. What you may or may not understand is, all these states within these United States of America have these chambers, right? And they have for decades. The reconstruction of business post-COVID is really, really fast right now. And I know everybody knows that, right? From investments, capitalism, funding, organization, structure. I wanted to give a shout out to you, Kim, today. I was on LinkedIn and I was just, going through the feed, and I see the United States Black Chambers of Commerce has given you a shout out with breaking news. CDFI created in Southern Nevada using settlement funds. Effort headed up by Urban Chamber will create funding opportunities and nurture entrepreneurship. So the United States Black Chambers is the umbrella of all chambers,
Correct.
right, within these
Correct.
United States. So they're the ones on Capitol Hill pushing policy to be able to distribute what functions best for our Black businesses. We thank God for that. And it has been rapid work in the last 2 to 3 years. Some of our listeners may or may not know that the Urban Chamber of Commerce on a national level has been awarded, Chamber of the Year. That's
Correct.
really, really big, because you're
Correct.
looking at all the different regions, demographics from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North to the South. The work that the Urban Chamber does, King, you're really, really humble. And I love that, because you get so much work done. But to our listeners, the state of Nevada leads very, very, very powerfully. Help me, Ken. It leads policy, it leads change.
Yeah.
It's a leader within our small businesses and what we receive.
Yes, and what I'll do, thank you very much, Tiffany, for bringing that up. And what I'm going to do again, as you asked me to do, is I'm going to talk universally about the chamber, and then I'm going to tie it into our global roundtable mission and purpose. From a universal standpoint, absolutely. The past 2 to 3 years, our primary focus was doing whatever necessary to provide a platform and a portal for people to access the resources necessary. Definitely our members, but we even became a resource for the general small, diverse business community, a subset of which is definitely we have a core group of Black businesses we represent, hence the recognition from the U.S. Black Chambers. But we really made an effort to get the resources out there to, bottom line, keep people in business. But now as we transition into the post-COVID, or actually let's retitle it, now as we transition into the recovery phase, and in the case of Nevada, making up a more resilient economy, which means moving into advanced manufacturing, logistics, continued efforts in information technology, as well as bolstering our healthcare system, we want to make sure that our businesses have the capacity and the resources in order to continue to grow. Hence the collaboration with the Community Development Financial Institution, or CDFI in formation, Access Community Capital. I want to say props, and it's been great working with Nick Steele. He's the executive director and founder. And Access Community Capital was the impetus for it was, as we come out of this recovery, and even just to get through the recovery, capital has always been a challenge. In particular, it's always been a challenge for Black businesses. He recognized, what can we do to make sure that businesses that normally can't get access to capital could get it? So to that end, Access Community Capital was founded. We're hoping, now that we're in the month of June, that at some point this month, we'll be getting the final CDFI certification from the U.S. Department of Treasury, which will open up even more doors. But what you highlighted, and what I would invite people to do, is thank you very much to Vegas PBS. Amber Dixon had us on Nevada Week. You can go back and see a replay, but we talked about CDFIs, we talked about access and the things that it plans to do. More recently, we received a pretty sizable amount to turn around and loan, and we are looking for businesses, even as we speak, to loan this money to. What I'll say very quickly, 90% of the money is geared towards emerging and growing businesses, but we also have 10% of the portfolio that will be for startup businesses. So if you're a business that you have a very good idea, you're just getting it, trying to launch it off the ground, there's a space for you where normally it's a challenge. And even for some of our more established businesses that may not have hit the 2 or 3 year point, or even if you're beyond that point, you still had challenges accessing traditional capital. Access Community Capital is hopefully the CDFI that'll be there for you. Now, let me transition to why that's important from a global roundtable standpoint. One of the things we recognize is that Access Community Capital, in collaboration with the Urban Chamber, needs to be another resource for either Africans, African immigrants that are here in the local community, or possibly even local African-American businesses that want to do business on the African continent, or other continents for that matter, but we do have a focus on the African continent. If you need capital to pursue those kind of projects, we're hoping that Access Community Capital can be yet another resource to provide the capital necessary to promote global commerce and international trade. So it all ties together. And we're happy that the Urban Chamber is able to collaborate with Access Community Capital. And again, take a look at the Vegas PBS replay. Thanks again to Amber Dixon for having us on Nevada Week. That was a great opportunity, and we appreciate the recognition by the U.S. Black Chambers. The other thing that I want to say very quickly is what we're hoping at the Urban Chambers, the fact that we have our own building, it's a business incubator, that we hope to do 3 things. We're looking forward to mid-July. We should have a total transfer and own our building free and clear. Thank you to the City of Las Vegas, Councilman Creer, and before that, Councilman Barlow. So number 1, we hope to get our building free and clear. Number 2, what we're hoping is that we're going to do a rehab and a mod, give the building a facelift, plus reconfigure some of the space to be more efficient and responsive to our clientele. And then number 3, we're looking at doing some fiber connections plus some upgrades from information technology on the interior of the building. Here's the bottom line. You'll be seeing more and more about the Urban Chamber Business Success Center, as well as the fact that we're creating a global accelerator, which will tie back to our global focus. And again, the idea of being a portal and a platform for resources to support you in your efforts to participate in global commerce and international trade. So I tried to summarize that as quickly as possible, but to your point, trying to share with people what we're doing here at the Urban Chamber.
Wow, yeah, that's so exciting. And to our listeners, what's so important about being involved with your business, with the chamber, is that it's organizing on a local level and a national level. And when that organization gets whizzing and whirring, what you're doing, from my perspective, is you are also working on a very global level. Why do I
Yeah,
say that? Right? Because of my travels and my business across seas on the continent of Africa, it always blows my mind that the rest of the world is always looking to partner with the US, no
correct.
matter what our news looks like on a daily basis, no matter what our elections, no matter what traumatic situation scenario we're dealing with in these United States, the bottom line fact is, on a global level, it's like a beacon of light when it comes to capitalism, commerce, business, investment, partnerships, relationships, specifically Africa, because that is where, right, we've been doing business, tribal exchange for years. And so it's humbling. So that's why I'm so enthusiastic about, Global Roundtable with the Urban Chamber on a local level. Las Vegas is a very national, global, right? We talk about that all the time because I know for certain what is being created now by Urban Chamber and on a national level, the United States Black Chambers is definitely a beacon and a road globally. It just automatically creates that path. So Kian, when you talk about the creation mid-July and starting, the construction and the uplift of the urban chambers, to our listeners, you guys, a lot of chambers around the United States don't even have offices. When I
That is
tell you that
correct.
the state of Nevada is very innovative and very progressive and very, very progressed in the organization of our Black businesses. No matter how you feel about it on a national level, it is a fact. Right. And so I get excited when you talk about this global incubator of business that you're talking about with the Urban Chamber.
Absolutely. And one thing I definitely want to do, and I always make it a point to do this, is I want to give credit to, and I hope he eventually sees this, Ron Busby, the CEO for the U.S. Black Chambers Incorporated. One of the first things he impressed upon me is that as chamber leaders across the country, one of the most important things we needed to do is to build Black businesses. And he was pretty specific. He said, whatever can be done to create $1 million Black businesses, that's what we need to do. In addition to that, more recently, what I also appreciate, another part of his recent vision has been, but it's probably always been there knowing Ron, is the focus on the continent of Africa and making sure that business and commerce is occurring not only here in the United States, but to your point, Tiffany, the fact that when you interact with individuals on the continent, they're looking to import and export and participate in international trade as well. Well, that's been a focus of Ron Busby as well. Recently, I know he's been to several countries in the southern region of the continent. And to your point, he's influencing policy, and we'll talk about AGOA in a few minutes here, but I know that he's influencing policy. But in addition to that, I know that at a national level, he's setting the stage for trade missions from his level that will tie to and integrate with what we're doing locally and regionally, so that when it's all said and done, I'll just put this out there. People sometimes ask me, Ken, what are you doing? Well, I'll share what, quote unquote, I'm really doing. One of my goals is to reconnect what was torn apart 400 plus years ago. That means connecting or reconnecting Africans and African Americans for two things. First of all, let's get those social relationships back in place, meaning as many people as possible visit the continent, not just once, but as many times as possible, but at a minimum, do it at least once. And then number two, creating those relationships for commerce. Again, both ways. We want there to be imports and exports because Africa by far has some of the most resources in the world. So we want to do business in a manner where, I'll try to be careful here, but I'm going to make the point. We want to make sure that we do business in a manner that is mutually beneficial. So what that means is we want to make sure that Native Africans in the various 54 countries will benefit from our efforts to participate in commerce as well. Just like it's important for us to create jobs here by exporting to the African continent, we want there to be jobs created there. We want their infrastructure to be more mature. We want their government, their currency. For example, we want them to have a robust and stable mortgage industry so that more residential development can occur. Again, these are some of the reasons why we're doing it, because we want it to be mutually beneficial. And I can tell you from personal experience, when you step off the plane that first time, you know that you're home and you're amongst family. And from my standpoint, we want to make sure that our family's doing well, not only here at the Urban Chamber in Las Vegas, but in the various countries on the African continent as well.
That's it. That's it. And it is a process. And that's why it's so exciting. It gets so excited. The potential of the resource on the ground in Africa is definitely our business here as African Americans on the continent of Northern America in the US. It is our business because there is business going on a global level on the continent of Africa. And so that's why, again, I'm always so very focused on the idea of getting that information, those relationships started, because there's the language, there's the culture, there's the currency, there's the time difference. There's so much to work through. That's why it's so important Urban Chamber is creating this hub in the United States as a global incubator kit.
And very quickly, what I'll applaud, and I want to make sure that people understand this, is part of the reason why I asked you to not only lead the Urban Chamber Roundtable as the chair, but in addition to that, to be the moderator for these segments that we do on a monthly basis, is because you are doing it front line. So you're getting the firsthand experience with the State Department, with the various countries. I know you have, in fact, let me stop right here. I know you have a particular focus on, is it Nigeria, I believe?
Nigeria, West Africa, yes, sir.
Absolutely. So focused on the country of Nigeria and in general, the West African region. So I want people to understand that part of the reason why I asked you to do this is because you have firsthand knowledge, you have a passion for this, that in turn you can share with others and let them know. The bottom line is you're an example of the fact that we can do this. I'll just share with you that I've got a military background, and unfortunately, sometimes our federal government doesn't always represent the African continent in the best light. And like anything else, it's kind of like when they talk about certain neighborhoods here in the US, the best thing you can do sometimes is go see things for yourself. And if you go back in my my Facebook timeline, you'll see that when I went to Namibia and South Africa, I made it a point to share the pictures, a little bit of video, because I wanted people to see how beautiful it was. They have metropolitan areas just like we do. And yes, they have some challenged areas as well, but I see those challenged areas as an opportunity for commercial and residential development over there, the same as we have some challenging areas over here. So again, I appreciate the fact that you've been doing it, and maybe share a little bit more at this point about what you do, because I want people to know that you are the example of the small business that is still figuring out a way to participate in global commerce.
Thank you. I appreciate you for that. Yes, Tribal Exchange Global, I mean, the work has always been in my husband and our mind, you know, but it really went down probably about, we started 11 years ago, really, really consistently going back and forth to the continent and creating those updated relationships. West Africa, Nigeria, it's really, you know, they call it the giant, right? Because of the resources, sometimes hard to penetrate through, or more challenging than, say, others that have been nurtured in relationship with the United States, for example, South Africa or Kenya or Ghana, right? Those are more familiar. Nigeria is very big, very powerful. It is a democracy, right? It's also a monarchy. So, you know, developing the relationship through Tribal Exchange Global with the government, with the monarchy, through the agricultural sector, understanding the importing and the exporting, but the relationships are the most important from my perspective as being an American, right? And really understanding how to create understanding in contracts, relationships. It's like right now, right, in the state of Nevada, we're getting ready to go to our to vote for our primaries, right? To understand
Right.
what's going on. That just happened. So not only am I always following what's going on in the state of Nevada and the United States, I'm constantly following the Republic of Nigeria.
Right.
They just finished their primaries. So a great friend just got the candidacy out of like 40 something people. She, a woman, is now going to be going
Excellent.
up against her. So it's very exciting when you say that you get off the plane when you go to Africa, you feel at home. Yes, well, that's the coolest part about going to Africa. You completely debunk all of the myths of it being weird or weird. It's not. It's uncanny familiar when you get there. It's very comfortable. Yep. It makes sense, or it does for me. So Tribal Exchange Global is really almost a consultant agency on both as of today, right? When it comes to real estate, contracts with the government, agricultural trade, manufacturing. We're in the midst right now of building our factory. We fly into Lagos, but we go into Benin City, Edo State. So we work heavily with the farmers, with the youth, and with the labor committees. So exactly what we're doing in the United States is exactly what we're doing in West Africa, Nigeria.
In fact, if I could hop in a minute, one of our models here at the Urban Chamber of Commerce is we say we build businesses to build our community. I'm coming up on my 9th year, or finishing off my 9th year at the Chamber. And when I first transitioned, the tagline at the bottom of my introductory letter was build businesses to build our community. Well, what I just heard you saying and talking about is the fact that globally, it is possible to do the same thing on the African continent, because you talked about following the politics, which we need to do here. You talked about being involved with the labor and the workforce. We have to do that here as business owners, small or large. In addition to that, you talked about the manufacturing and building a plant and making the capital investment. We have to do that here. We have to do the same thing over there. The only difference is we have to build the relationships and get to know the people and let them get to know us over here. But the fundamentals sound like they're pretty much the same. Why am I saying this? Because yes, I'm not saying it's not a challenge, but I want to debunk the myth that we can't do it. Yes, we can do it.
Yeah.
And there are companies like yours that are in a position to help facilitate things, which is great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always good to remind yourself as a small Black business owner in the United States, not only can you do it, it's your responsibility, right? It's that baton being passed down to you. And by the way, I want to remind you, all the other continents are doing it right now. So
Correct.
yes, absolutely, yes, you can. I was having a conversation with Osa, my husband, right? Native African to the Benin City, Benin Kingdom. And I said to him, I said, you know, I think it's a fun spin to think and talk to business owners right now, the art of business. So we're at a time in history right now where it's really, really important to creatively think outside of the box when it comes to capital and commerce. It's like, I always think back to like, you know, W.E.B. Du Bois and all of our civil leaders, in the last hundreds of years. That's what they were doing. They were creating different strategies unapologetically and without fear, right? So if we think about our small businesses right here in Las Vegas, it can get really scary sometimes, right? Like, oh my gosh, I have $25 left in my account. My, you know, my fee for my license is due in 28 days. Well, go to CDFI. The state of Nevada has a $1,000, you know, loan that you can take out. We have the tools to be able to move forward. So sometimes we get so comfortable in, I don't know, the struggle or the people saying and not, you know, encouraging. I'm telling you right now, we have all of the tools to move forward, and it is prime time to catch up.
Absolutely, because one thing I want to talk about is you mentioned Nigeria. I'll just share with people. I like to put stuff out in the atmosphere or the universe every now and then. Here's what I've been putting out in the universe for a while now. If you're not familiar, I'm going to put this name out there because I want people to research it. There's an Aliko Dangote, A-L-I-K-O, last name Dangote, D-A-N-G-O-T-E. You were talking about the resources in Nigeria, the fact that it's known as one of the most resource rich parts of the region. Well, he specializes and focuses on cement, but more recently he's building either the second or the third largest oil refinery in the world. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Aliko Dangote is the richest person on the African continent, a multi-billionaire. We've been trying to create a relationship between the Dangote Group and the Urban Chamber because, once again, going back to what we talked about as far as connecting Africans and African Americans, here's what I'm putting out in the universe. He's just one example. There are several African billionaires on the African continent. In addition to that, there are numerous millionaire and multimillionaire Africans on the continent. Here's what I want us to focus on. That is a possible source of capital investment that we should tap into, whether it's for business interests here in our United States or specifically the Southern Nevada region, but definitely for those of us that may be thinking about doing global commerce, especially with and on the African continent. Again, that's a source of capital that I'm not saying everything has been figured out yet, but as my mom used to tell me, and she's probably watching this from heaven right now, learn the system, master the system, and then to your point, and my recent corollary is create the next system, next in capital letters, NEXT. So what I'm saying there, what I'm suggesting is this: let's see and build those relationships because the resources are there. We just need to figure out how to access them.
Yes, absolutely. The country on the continent of Africa, Nigeria, is extremely, extremely, extremely competitive. And I think it has a lot to do with the history, right? Going back to 1897. Ken, you're talking about Aliko Dangote. Forbes is constantly, right, always putting out who are the richest 15 people, top 10. And it's like just this last month, it put it out. And yeah, number one, of course, per usual, is Mr. Aliko Dangote at 14.5 billion. We go on to, it's just Nigeria after Nigeria, the second richest African. And by the way, we're talking about on the books. A lot of son after son in Africa, they're not even on the books. But Mike, 7.1 billion. We have, Robert F. Smith. There is a plethora of investors on the ground in Nigeria. So that's why the work gets really exciting, because they have the resources on the ground and the relationships. We have the structure, the system put in place, which is constantly reinventing itself here in the United States. The matchmaking process is where we are right now. And by the way, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that on every level, from federal to state to local and to global. South Korea, South Africa, Russia, China, they all know it, the UK. So that's why I get very excited.
And that's the reason why what I want to hop in and say right here, I was looking at my Facebook memories and I did a screen capture of it. I think it's going on about 7 years ago. The ambassador from Botswana, she was the Botswana ambassador to the US, came and spoke at the Innovation Center here in Las Vegas. And she looked at a couple of us. In particular, she looked at, I want to say it was Joe Cole, who was on our board at the time. And she basically looked at us and she said, you need to come over there and do business. And the point I'm trying to make here is, I know there may be some challenges. I also know that there may be some myths we have to overcome, but believe me, your family is looking for us to come over there and do business. And what we're also saying, once again, at the Urban Chamber is, we're not saying you have to make the journey by yourself. We're also not saying you can't make the journey by yourself, but to the extent possible, leverage our network, leverage our resources to increase a higher probability of success. The other thing that I want to suggest is that it doesn't just have to be a relationship between the Dangote Group and the Urban Chamber. Again, through businesses like yours that do that type of consulting, we're more than willing to create other relationships. Right now, we're in the initial stages of creating a memorandum of agreement with one of the country's consulates and a consulate is a official government entity that represents an African country here in the United States. Well, we're continuing our effort to put those kind of memorandums of agreement in place so that when you're interested in going to a particular country, there's an official reference point there to help you with resources. The other thing that I want to circle back to is that's been the beauty of the African diaspora Las Vegas. One of the things that we thought about when we formed the Global Roundtable, and in particular looked at the African continent, we said, you know what, we need to have a representative or a contact for each of the 54 countries, a representative here in Las Vegas, but then also a representative over in the particular country on the continent. Lo and behold, African diaspora Las Vegas came to the forefront. They're already doing that. So it made sense for us to collaborate with them. So one of the other things you can do is by coming to the Urban Chamber, specifically our Global Roundtable, is you can more efficiently and effectively work to establish those relationships.
Yeah, to our listeners, I can't even emphasize enough how important the relationship with Tribal Exchange Global and the Urban Chamber is, because the scale, the mass amount of scale, you know, it's very interesting as small business Black owners here in the United States or just Southern Nevada. I was like this, I was thinking like this, like my next step is this, this, this. And then I go over to Africa and they're thinking like this. And there was a gap, right, of confidence, of resource, of team. And I was able to find that at Urban Chamber. So, you know, your team is very important to be able to understand what those government contracts are supposed to look like, what an MOA is. If I want to, you know, do business in Nigeria and I'm going to have to talk to the government. Okay, well, guess what? I'm going to have to talk to the government in Nigeria and Nevada. That was challenging and overwhelming for me. So another reason why I'm so grateful for the Urban Chamber is these relationships have been in the making for a very long time.
Absolutely.
There's a very respected weight in the state of Nevada. And again, I'm going to say it on a national level.
Absolutely, because one of the things we recognize is that to make the pathway easier for businesses coming behind us, whether it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even a year from now, we recognize that we needed to have some official structure in place so that, for example, there are what they call step funds. I'm going to put that out there again. If you're looking to do business, let me say it as simply as possible. If you are going to create a product or even a service, but definitely if you're going to create a product here in the state of Nevada and manufacture it in a manner that will create jobs here so that you can export it to a country over on the African continent or anywhere else. But again, we're focused on the African continent. There are step funds that are related to helping to offset a portion of your business trip or trade mission, if you will, to any of the countries on the continent. So the bottom line is we put an official memorandum of understanding and agreement in place between the Urban Chamber and the International Trade Division for the Governor's Office of Economic Development, or GOED. Well, that agreement is in place, and what it says is not exclusively do people have to come through the Urban Chamber, but as an additional tool, if you come to the Urban Chamber, there's already an existing relationship there to leverage our network to help you do business on the African continent.
So important, especially in a state like Nevada, because GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and the STEP program that you hear Ken talking about, in Las Vegas, our national relationships, our international relationships, because we're a global hub, is unbeatable. Yep. Okay, in these United States, we are a global leader in Las Vegas, Nevada, period. So when you go to that GOED office, yes, the resources are there, but let me tell you something, get in line, because there is some serious competition in the state of Nevada. So when I stepped into that situation and I started like peeling back, they say, the layers of the onion, I realized, oh, thank you, God, for the Urban Chamber, because that relationship with the Governor's Office of Economic Development for these relationships global to bring the African continent on a very personal level is absolutely necessary, because that's what it's about. It's about the collective. It's about Black people connecting with Black people on the continent. And we need that representation through the Urban Chamber to get through our state government of GOED. And the relationships are beautiful. They're trusted, they're transparent, and it's in process. We have the Urban Chamber has done so much up to this point, but wow, the road is long. We have so much further to go.
It is, because here's the goal, or here's the challenge I'm going to put out there. Let's say it's 20, 30, 40 years from now. One of the things we're working on with the next generation leadership at the Urban Chamber is not only locally, nationally, statewide, what do we want the Urban Chamber to be doing? And more specifically, what do we want our members to be doing? Well, I'm going to plant this challenge right now. 20, 30, 40 years from now, I would love for the Urban Chamber to be able to say, we have an Urban Chamber member, in particular, Urban Chamber Black businesses that are doing business on all 54 countries of the African continent, and doing business in a manner where, as we like to say over here, businesses, they hire people, they put resources in the community, and they participate in political engagement. Here's what I'm going to suggest. Again, fast forward 20, 30, 40 years from now, we have Urban Chamber members and businesses that are doing those three things on the African continent, or contributing to the overall economic development agenda on the African continent, and again, doing it in a mutually beneficial manner. So I've laid down the gauntlet there, and I'm sure you and others that are part of the next generation are going to track it. In fact, maybe that's what we need to do. I'm putting this seed out there too. Maybe we should start tracking, put a big board up or Excel file or whatever, and say, do we have an Urban Chamber member that is doing business in all 54 countries on the African continent? And just keep track of it, and maybe in partnership with the African Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, as well as the African Diaspora of Las Vegas and the many other African associated groups here in the Southern Nevada region, let's see what's possible.
Okay, so boom, you've thrown it on the ground, you've laid that out. I think that's a great project for Global Roundtable to start working on. Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much. It's a great vision, because we talk about the 54 countries on the continent, and now let's talk. You wanted to touch on, and I've been a little obsessed with since for a while. AGOA. What does that even mean, and why does it matter? It is the African Growth and Opportunity Act that was put in place in 2000. So that's a policy that was created through politics, right? So business and politics are right side by side. It's not a personal thing, it's a fact. So what is the African Growth and Opportunity Act? It is US trade policy towards sub-Saharan Africa, again, since 2000. It is a non-reciprocal US trade preference program that provides duty-free access to the US market for most exports from eligible sub-Saharan African countries. So let's talk about that right now. And of course, you can go online and Google this, right? We talk about 54, 50 plus something countries on the continent of Africa, but there's actually about 36 that are registered for us to be able as United States citizens to do business with. So we still have work to do on the Hill, right? With this act to get all of the countries ready. That is down the line. That is a process. But let's start with the first 36 to 39, what they look like. I want to dedicate, Ken, a global roundtable that goes into depth with this, but creating and starting with those 36 countries, Angola, Benin, Botswana, Burkina Faso, Cabo Verde, Central African Republic of Chad, Comoros, Democratic Republic of Congo, Cote d'Ivoire, Djibouti, Swaziland, Ethiopia, Gabon, the Gambia, Ghana, Guyana, Guinea-Bissau, Kenya, Lesotho, Liberia, Madagascar, Malawi, Mali, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Tanzania, Togo, Uganda, and Zambia. We start there, okay? It's more than enough to start with.
Absolutely. As you were reading that list, I kept smiling, and I'm smiling because all I saw is lots of opportunity.
Yeah.
Opportunity to create social relationships, but ultimately opportunities to create the types of economic relationships that can support global commerce and international trade. So
That is the
lots
new
of opportunity there.
dream. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To create those relationships through capitalism and commerce, that is our responsibility for this generation when we're picking up the civil rights movement.
Absolutely. In fact, what I would suggest is that notwithstanding some of the challenging things that we're seeing going on in our country right now and the mentalities behind them, we're in the silver rights aspect or portion of the civil rights movement, if you ask me. And I don't grow, what's that saying? I'm not going to grow faint or weary from the struggle. It is what it is, and it's just our turn. When I think about some of the atrocities and some of the things that our ancestors went through in this country to try to further business and capitalism, when we think about Rosewood and Tulsa and other, because those weren't isolated events. There have been several cases of where when we made an effort to, if you will, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, in many cases when we didn't even have a boot or shoelaces, but we still figured it out. We're very resourceful people. But when I look at the historical challenges that we've been through and where we are now and some of the things that are going on, the bottom line is it's our turn in the continuum to move this effort forward, and definitely global commerce and international trade in particular with the African continent needs to be a part of it. So yes, when you're reading off all those names, I was smiling because there's lots of opportunity there, and we just need to stick with it. Okay, we just really need to stick with it.
The urgency is real. Sometimes it's about perspective. Like you said, everything that's going on in the United States, it's really important to wake up in the morning and to focus and to remind yourself why you are here. What is it that you're doing? And I've had this perspective coming through really strong for a couple of years now. I want to talk about Black privilege. And when I talk about Black privilege as opposed to other privileges, I think it's really high time that we start focusing on that. What does that mean? It means that we're here right now, alive today. And the work that our ancestors did to get us to that point puts us in a point of privilege. We understand what to do next. We know better because our ancestors have already functioned in, by the way, situations way more traumatic than where we are right now. So let us not get twisted in the media coverage of the news and the what do you call just this it's not true.
Negativity.
The privilege of Black business owners in the United States right now and on a global level is Black privilege, period. Again, everybody knows that across the board.
I got to tell you, Tiffany, when I first heard you use that term, I was taken back a bit. I didn't really get it or understand it. Maybe even a little bit of me was like, well, given some of the challenges we're seeing nationally and even internationally, privilege. But when you put it in that kind of context, and admittedly, I'm a big believer in the concept of self-actualization. And in addition to that, any of the organizations that I've led, I always talk about being positive, being proactive, and being productive. But then more recently with the chamber, I had that last P in capital letters, be profitable as well, because we believe in capitalism with a conscience. And so to your point, I didn't get that term at first, but when you put it into that context, you are absolutely correct. There's a lot of opportunity here, not without challenges in the Southern Nevada region or the entire state. At the same time, there's a lot of opportunity on the African continent. Again, not without challenges, but that's part of what we do as business owners. It's what we do as entrepreneurs, is we work our way through challenges. And typically we see them as opportunities, because if something's not happening right now, there's a need or a void that's created. The one thing I'd like to touch on and just, again, put this out in the universe is, if you look at the statistics, unfortunately, due to COVID, we lost about 42% of our Black businesses, meaning whatever the number was going into the COVID phase, there were 42% less. But from a glass half full standpoint, that means we still have 58% that were resilient enough, resourceful enough, strong enough to get through that. Let's do what we can to help those 58% grow. But in addition to that, there are still other individuals for varying reasons. One of the highest demographic now for starting businesses is Black women business owners and entrepreneurs. We just need to provide them with the resources and capital to do it. But again, to your point, let's stay positive and let's do what's necessary to close. If you look at the statistics, there's a racial wealth gap, and we won't go into all the reasons for it. We'll just acknowledge it objectively. But having said that, even that is an opportunity. The bottom line is, just as our ancestors did what was necessary to get us to this point of privilege, it is incumbent upon us to move this initiative forward. Again, bringing back the U.S. Black Chambers and the tie to the Urban Chamber, the bottom line is we're creating a national network of chambers that can support our business owners in their growth, get them the capital they need, the resources they need, but not only here, again, to the point of having the global roundtable, as well as some of the things that are happening with the U.S. Black Chambers, we want to make sure that there's a tie to the African continent. And when it's all said and done, we have a network of chambers and beyond that, chamber businesses that can not only do business here nationally, but they can help build the African continent as well. So it's a very exciting time. And to your point, it is a point of privilege. And let's make some things happen.
It is. We give thanks to the Chamber, Urban Chamber of Commerce here in Southern Nevada. Ken, we give thanks to the leadership that you have given us for the last 9 years and moving forward. We give thanks to the U.S. Black Chambers on a national level. And we give thanks to the privilege and the duty of moving forward. If there's one group of people in the whole world, internationally distributed, it is Black people. We know what to do. We have been here before and we are focused. And the name of the game is capitalism, conscious commerce, capitalism, relationship, integrity, and on federal level with local, private, and public. Kim, thank you always. Thank you.
No, it's my pleasure, and we look forward to, I anticipate during the month of July, August, and September, we'll be bringing some guests on board. We anticipate in July, hopefully we'll get a contact from the State Department that can give us some more in-depth information about the AGOA Act, the opportunities, administratively, what you need to do, the resources that are available. In addition to that, we anticipate having discussions and guests from the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, because they already make trips and create relationships globally to bring companies here. We want to make sure that perhaps there are African companies or African business people that can participate with LVGEA. In addition to that, the Las Vegas Visitors and Convention and Visitors Authority, we know that one of their goals pre-COVID was to go from 20% to 30% market share. Well, we want to make sure that the African continent is on their radar screen as far as market share. Once again, I'm going to put something out there in the universe. Right now, most of the continents have direct international flights into Harry Reid International Airport. I'm gonna put it out there. I would love to see the day when it's figured out a direct flight, international flight from one of the African countries into Harry Reid Airport, because that'll open up additional opportunities. But sometimes you have to take certain steps before you get to that point. So we look forward to the LVCVA sharing with us the international markets that are out there, what they look for, whether it's from a entertainment standpoint or business standpoint. We just want to kind of learn as my mom said, learn the system, master the system, and then we can create the next system from there. So some exciting times ahead. And we hope, like I said before, if you're looking for resources and information, join us here at the Urban Chamber Global Roundtable.
We did it. Happy June 1st, Wednesday, Kin, 9:54. We thank God that we record these and we share these on social media, because when you're making dinner or you're driving across town, you can just put it on and listen to it. And always,
Absolutely.
reach out to myself, reach out to Ken, reach out to the Urban Chamber. The Urban Chamber team is strong, okay? And your questions will get answered. So
Absolutely. In fact, just real quick, you can follow us on Facebook, Urban Chamber of Commerce Nevada. We also have a friend page that's simply Urban Chamber, but the primary page is Urban Chamber of Commerce Nevada on Facebook. On Twitter, it's at Urban Chamber. We're also very active on Instagram, which is Urban Chamber of Commerce. And then more recently, we're trying to beef up that activity. So it was good to see us tagged in the Vegas PBS, as
yeah,
well as the U.S. Black Chambers for the collaboration with Access Community Capital. And again, reach out to them if you're looking for capital. But again, on LinkedIn, we're Urban Chamber of Commerce. So we're all over social media. But as always, you can go old school too. Give us a call, 702-648-6222. Again, 702-648-6222. And we'll get you connected to our Urban Chamber family, or more importantly, our Urban Chamber Business Success Center. So thanks again, Tiffany. Really appreciate your leadership and your moderation, and above all, your front line doing it yourself as an entrepreneur and businesswoman.
thank you, sir. Thank you, listeners, and we will see you next month. It will be July 6th, Wednesday, 9 a.m. Until then, drink your water and keep on communicating. Thank you.
Got mine right here.
Very, very important. I'm still drinking my coffee.
There you go. All right.
Thank
Take care, everyone.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.